Hello and welcome. I'm Elizabeth, Year 11 student, and please welcome the illustrious Miss Megan Connors, Principal of James Ruse Agricultural High School. Today we'll take a look at what it's really like being a principal, like interviewing Miss Connors on her work and career. But first, let's backtrack a little. All of us have our dreams as children, but these are subject to change. Miss Connors, as a child, did you always want to be a principal?
I don't think I always wanted to be a principal, but I think I might have always wanted to be a teacher. I think my mother was a teacher. I had wonderful teachers at school. I went to a lot of schools, being a daughter of a bank manager, so we moved around the country a lot. So I had wonderful experiences and school was a really important part of my life, as particularly as we moved around towns. And my sister and I spent hours playing schools with our dolls and in bank houses everywhere across New South Wales. So it was, yes, I think there was always probably part of me that wanted to be a teacher. Although when I was in Year 12, I really didn't know and went to uni with lots of options in my head, but not really knowing what I was going to end up doing.
So what's your typical daily routine at work?
Every day is different, so it's every day something different happens. Particularly here at James Ruse, we have a really full day. We have lots of students' activities happening every day. So it's very hard to know what I'm going to be doing to support and look after those activities. But I start work usually about 7:15, and that's when I do have my quiet time. So I get a lot of my paperwork done, whether it is about sorting out our school budget, looking at the finances. Writing newsletters. I do that in the quieter moments, but once the students start to arrive and the staff at about 8:15, then I like to sort of get out and start talking to people, and I think I spend most of my day talking to either parents or students or teachers, so I talk a lot, and I think there's lots of meetings. Schools are run by teams, and I try to get to as many of the team meetings as possible, so whether it's the cross-curricular team or the professional learning team, basically I think I have a meeting every day as well, but all good.
Wow, so there you have it, a day in the life of a principal. Now, as an ambassador of education, what do you think makes a good school?
I think any school that meets the needs of its students is a good school, and we have so many wonderful schools in Australia. I also think that a school is a partnership. You can't run a school in isolation, so it has to be a team approach, and the parents, students and staff have to actually work together for it to be successful.
I see. And what would you consider your proudest achievement during your time at James Ruse?
Well, at James Ruse, but also as a teacher, I think my proudest achievement is seeing the successful development of students. So you watch students as the high school teacher come in Year 7, and for us they're so small and gorgeous really, and so just waiting for the world to happen almost, and it is so wonderful to see those young people develop into successful and happy individuals, whether it's watching them perform at Shakespeare Festival out of their comfort zone and having a great time, or debating, or whether it's when they come back as ex-students and they've been successful in their careers, but also that they're happy and that they are living really adventurous and happy and healthy lives.
Definitely. Recently, the Bring Your Own Device program has been implemented. Can you share your thoughts? Have there been any problems, discrimination among students, or maybe tendencies to handwrite less or more illegibly?
We've implemented the Bring Your Own Device policy last year, and we did hold a parent meeting, and which was very successful. We were fortunate enough to be able to offer a pool of laptops to support the program. So no student at James Ruse has gone without a laptop, so we still have additional laptops sitting up in our cupboards if there was a child. So students have had the choice of bringing their own or borrowing one of ours for the year. And so in terms of equity, we've managed that really well, and that hasn't been problematic. We also had the wonderful situation of our Year 12s of the past, but even our present Year 12s and 11s that wanted to actually bring their own device, have actually donated their device back to be loaned to a student this year, and that's been a really positive thing. In terms of, so discrimination, no, I don't think there's been anything. We have, in terms of handwriting, that's something that we really focus on, but we want our devices to be used in conjunction with learning, in all types of learning. So we would still advocate the use of handwriting in most subjects, certainly in writing essays and English particularly. And we believe that note-taking is a process that you think better if you've got a pen in your hand. So we would be trying to push that message as well. Technology is far greater than just note-taking or research, and it is about connecting and collaborating with other students, actually creating things, films, videos, Google Docs, whatever it is. It shouldn't just be about writing an essay or note-taking. So handwriting is always a concern, but we would say we must keep practicing.
So technology, while it has some disadvantages, has quite a positive role in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the HSC will ever be online, or is it more likely to stick with the tried and true old school style?
I'm not sure what will happen with the HSC. I think it will evolve. However, I think there are equity issues across Australia about it, or across New South Wales, about it going online, and even reliability of the internet and the services. The ESSA test, which is a Year 8 science test, is now being done online. But that requires, that's a very small sample of students across the state in a very short space of time, but that requires a lot of resources and things to work right. So I couldn't predict. It may go online. I don't think it's going to go online in the next few years, and I think students do need to be looking at making sure that they can handwrite. I think the whole HSC could change though. I think that's probably a more likely option, is that we'll see different style questions being asked, and which may suit an online environment, I'm not sure.
Now, these exams primarily determine tertiary education choices. Should universities have more prerequisites rather than take higher ATAs?
Yeah, well, they already do. So the universities are now looking at a broad range of, I guess, measures to choose the students that they want. So the ATAR, and we are strong advocates of this, that the ATAR is one component of success in terms of getting into the course you want, or getting the job you want, or getting the scholarship, or whatever it is. The ATAR is it's one part. It's a significant part at the moment. But there are certainly, particularly if you wanted to go into media and communications, there are portfolios that you can put together. If you wanted to go into architecture, you put a portfolio together. Universities are giving credit to things like the Duke of Edinburgh program, and to student leadership and volunteer work. Elite sportsmen are given credit for the role they've played in sport. So I think already universities are looking at a broad range. And I think that's something that we want to continue, having our students achieve the top ATARs in the state, but at the same time we want them to have everything else as well. And that's why we're offering such a really broad extracurricular program, Duke of Ed, cadets, all our service programs, so that our students are well-rounded and then are able to take up any of the opportunities that are there for them.
So a well-rounded, holistic education.
Well, that's the goal, and I think that's what all the universities are now looking for.
Ms. Connors, is it expected that every high-achieving student has a tutor?
Certainly not, and most of our highest achieving students have had very little tutoring. Tutoring is a really difficult topic, and I know that many of our students are tutored, but certainly when I talk on an individual basis with students, it isn't every child, and it's certainly every year when I look through sort of the people that score the high 99s, many of them are not tutored at all. What they sort of all talk about, and we do get them back to talk to our students and our parents, is they sort of talk about getting feedback from their teachers. So getting that one-on-one support from teachers is much more important than tutoring. However, culturally, tutoring has become very acceptable amongst our community, And I think it's a little bit like a security blanket. So we have to give the parents confidence that we're going to deliver what they need, and I think then tutoring will be reduced. But it's not our highest performing students that are actually being tutored. Many of them are able to do what they need to do on their own with the help of their own teachers. However, if a child is struggling in any setting, I think then a one-on-one help is a good idea. But if they're not struggling, I think it's just babysitting.
So what could be done for high achieving students in rural areas?
Yeah, I think high achieving students in rural areas may not have the benefit of having, I guess, high achieving colleagues. However, I was educated in the country, and I did my year 7, 8 and 9 at Condobolin High School, and I was always surrounded by classmates that were high achieving, and I had a wonderful education there. I think the Department of Education has put together a wonderful policy document recently called the Rural and Remote Strategy, and they are really looking at how we can better service all students in rural areas. I think there's a lot of talk of things like a virtual high school. We already have gifted distance ed programs, so there is a gifted selected class that is run virtually via distance ed. So students have access to many programs, and that connects them with other high achieving students. Here at James Ruse, we love to have visitors from the country, and we've often had, last year Peel High School came to visit, South Grafton have been a number of times, and they basically, and I think we've got a school called Billabong High School coming soon, and we have a wonderful two-way exchange of ideas. So we learn just as much from them as they learn from us, but they shadow the students in the classroom. And all of those exchanges, I think that could be done at a bigger level with city high schools and country high schools. But I think with the internet now and with the way we can use communication technologies, that high achieving students in the country are not as isolated as they used to be.
That's good. So, some young primary students receive tutoring before the selective examination. What are your views on this?
I think many students do receive tutoring. I'm always interested because we interview every single student that comes to James Ruse at the start of, at the end of year 6 for them. And it's not part of the selection process, it's just so we get to know them. And we talk to them all about tutoring. We actually ask them not to do any more tutoring as they move into year 7. And we say, just come to school, enjoy school, and if there's any worries, let us know and we'll help you. The selective test, though, is a difficult and it's a time-framed test. And I think you do need practice at doing that sort of test, whether it's just practice at home with mum and dad or whether it's with a tutor. I think you do need practice in that setting. So very bright students will do very well in any selective type test. However, they might need the strategies of knowing how to pace themselves and all those sorts of things, which I think can come from looking at the papers online and gaining but they do need to practice before they do it.
Okay, so personally in your career, has the gender divide ever been an issue for you?
No, it's an interesting question, and I've thought about that a lot, and I think my answer would be no, not since I became a teacher. But back in probably 1986 or 1985 when I was doing my HSC, and 1986 when I was making my choices, I don't think women at that time were encouraged to have the choices that they are now. So there were some areas that, and it might have just been my upbringing, my family, I'm not really sure, but I wouldn't have considered, which I now think that many young women have, consider everything, and I think that's really valuable. I was a student that loved maths and science, and I was really encouraged to do that. But my last 3 years of school were at a wonderful girls' school, so I actually don't think I'd ever experienced any gender issues, and certainly not in the workplace. I've had really supportive mentors and colleagues, both men and women. I've followed, I guess, both head teachers when I was a teacher and principals that have been very strong and successful women. So I think, and even my mother is a very strong, successful, powerful role model in our lives. So I think I've been very lucky, and I do think though that young women today probably have more opportunity, but there are probably still some areas out there, particularly later in careers when women are choosing to have children, etc. Particularly in the very sort of demanding careers of law or medicine, are they being catered for at that level when they maybe want some time off? I think that's still an area that women probably have to fight for. But personally, I think I have been incredibly lucky to have role models that have basically led the way for me. So I've been privileged.
And to wrap it up, what advice and tips would you give our young readers or viewers to do well in their chosen career?
I think in the chosen career, well, I think the key is that you have to love what you're doing. And I think you've really got to think hard about what your career is. And if you don't like what you're doing, I would change it. Particularly, and I think that's a real Gen Y attitude now. I think in my day we probably kept going, but I think that's one of the really important things that we now are realising about careers. We're going to have multiple careers in our lives. I think it would be, it's really important if you don't like what you're doing to change it. Every occupation, no matter what you're doing, is hard work, and it's hard work balancing family, life, all of those other things that you want to do. And you do have to work hard to do well. But as I say to all the students, like effort equals reward. You put in the effort, you'll get the reward. But nothing, you can't take anything for granted. I feel incredibly privileged to have been given the chance to be principal at this school, and it wasn't something that I sort of thought was something that would be coming my way. But I was, I guess, lucky on one case, but prepared myself well as well. So, and had a lot of guidance and support. My advice would be to find a mentor. I've had numerous fabulous mentors in my career, and I also like to pass that on to other young teachers. And particularly for students considering a career, no day as a teacher is the same as the day before. You're never ever bored as a teacher. And working particularly with adolescents is incredibly stimulating and rewarding, and you never know what they're going to say or do. And if you actually want to know the truth about anything, ask a Year 7 child. They will tell you. And it's a real honour to work with students. So I would recommend any career you're interested in, but definitely teaching as well.
That concludes our interview. Thank you very much for answering our questions.
Thanks.
We'd like to thank you on behalf of the Australian Education Times for taking the time to talk to us today. All the best with your work and projects at James Ruse High.
And thank you for interviewing me. Thank you.